I grew up in a small town in Ohio where dreams felt heavy and far away. My family struggled to survive paycheck to paycheck. My parents taught me that family comes first even when life gets hard. I believe that with my whole heart. My little sister Emma was the light of our home, and we all knew she had big dreams. I wanted her to have the future I never got the chance to chase. When I turned 18, everything in our house fell apart at once. My dad got injured at work and lost his only job. My mom became sick and could barely leave the house. Our bills kept rising and our hope kept shrinking. I had planned to go to community college, but life pushed me in a different direction. I took a job at a gas station working long nights to help my family survive. Emma told us she wanted to go to college, and I saw the fire in her eyes. She worked hard, she studied hard, and she deserved a chance. But we had no money for tuition or books or anything a student needs. I looked at her and made a promise that changed my entire life. I told her I would pay for her college no matter what. She cried and hugged me tight, and I thought it meant something real. To keep my promise, I took a second job in a warehouse loading trucks. My days started before sunrise and ended long after midnight. Some nights I slept in my car because my body felt too weak to drive home. Every paycheck I earned went straight to Emma's tuition. I paid for her books, her supplies, her dorm, everything she needed. I ate cheap meals and wore old clothes so she would never go without. I kept telling myself her success would make every sacrifice worth it. I missed holidays, I missed sleep, I missed being young because responsibility had no mercy. But I stood on the sidewalk in my worn-out work boots, feeling proud and tired at the same time. I told myself this was the beginning of her new life. I told myself my sacrifices were building her future. I told myself that love for family means giving until it hurts. At the warehouse, the work grew harder every week. The boxes felt heavier. The mornings felt colder. My back ached all the time and my hands were covered in cuts. But I pushed through because Emma needed me. At the gas station, I worked late shifts watching strangers buy snacks and lottery tickets. Sometimes I wondered what life would be like if I had gone to college too. But then I reminded myself that Emma was my purpose. She was the one who would make it out. She was the one who would break the cycle. Months passed and Emma called less and less. She used to send messages every day telling me about her classes. Then the messages came once a week. Then once every 2 weeks. I told myself she was just busy. College life was new and exciting and I did not want to hold her back. But deep down my heart felt heavy. One day I sent her money for books and she replied with a single word. Thanks. No warmth. No gratitude. Just a cold, short message. I stared at my screen wondering if she was okay or if something had changed. I worked 2 shifts that day and cried in the back room where no one could see me. I had never felt so small. She came home for Thanksgiving break and everything felt different. She walked into the house wearing new clothes and a new attitude. She barely hugged me and acted like I was invisible. My mom asked her about college and Emma talked about new friends and parties. She talked about her life like it was far above ours. Like our little house was not politely, not gently, but like it was something she deserved automatically. She said her friends were going on a trip and she did not want to be the only one staying behind. I looked at her with tired eyes. I told her I did not have extra money. I told her I was barely keeping up. She rolled her eyes and said I needed to stop being dramatic. She said everyone on campus thought I was some boring small-town guy with no future. She said that when her friends asked what I did, she told them I was basically a nobody. My breath stopped in my chest. My heart felt like it split open right there. I worked 2 brutal jobs for years and she called me a nobody. The person I loved most. The person I sacrificed everything for. The person I believed in more than myself. I walked outside into the cold night air because I could not breathe. The stars looked still and silent. I felt like the world had turned its back on me. All I wanted was to give her the life she dreamed of. I never thought she would use that life to step over me. That night I sat on the porch alone feeling empty. My hands trembled. My eyes burned. My heart felt crushed. Inside the house she laughed on the phone with her friends. She acted like nothing happened. She acted like my pain was invisible. I stayed outside until my body went numb because the cold felt easier than the truth. I woke up early the next morning for my warehouse shift. My eyes were swollen from crying, but I forced myself to get ready. I drove through quiet streets thinking about everything Emma had said. The words she used kept echoing in my head. A nobody. A loser. Someone not worth being proud of. Those words ate at my heart like they were carved into it. At work, I lifted boxes heavier than my body wanted to handle. During my lunch break, I sat alone on the cold concrete floor. I replayed years of sacrifice, years of sleepless nights, years of double shifts. I remembered sending Emma every dollar I had. I remembered skipping meals so she would never have to skip hers. I remembered the pride I once felt watching her step into her future. And I wondered how all that love turned into disrespect. When my shift ended, I drove home slowly. The sky was gray and heavy, like it understood how I felt. My mom asked if I was okay, but I forced a small smile. I did not want her to worry because she already carried enough pain. Emma avoided me the whole day. She walked around like she was too good for our house, too good for our life, too good for me. Later that night, I heard her laughing with someone on the phone again. Her voice was loud, as if she wanted me to hear. She said she could not wait to go back to college because being home felt depressing. She said she hated being around small-minded people. She said her brother needed to grow up and stop acting like life owed him anything. My stomach twisted. My hands clenched. My chest ached. I stood in the hallway listening, feeling smaller with every word. I walked into the kitchen because I needed a moment to breathe. My dad sat at the table with his injured leg resting on a chair. He looked at me and he knew something was wrong. He asked me what happened. I wanted to lie, but the truth spilled out of me. I told him what Emma said. I told him how she treated me. I told him how much it hurt to be called a nobody by the person I loved most. My dad listened with heavy eyes. He put his hand on my shoulder and said that sacrifice revealed, and I felt something in me break. Not a clean break. A painful, slow one that spreads through every part of your soul. Days turned into weeks. She barely texted. When she did, she only asked for money. Never asked how I was. Never asked if I was okay. Never asked about my life. I worked both jobs until my body felt like it was falling apart. But I kept sending her what she needed because I kept believing she would change. One night, I walked into the gas station for my shift and saw a group of teenagers laughing. One of them reminded me of Emma, full of confidence, full of dreams. I wished for a moment that I could go back to being young, back to when love felt simple, back to when a promise still felt sacred. But life had already taken me too far. During the late shift, an older customer stopped by. He looked tired and worn down, like life had pushed him too. He told me that he worked 2 jobs for years to put his son through school. But his son never looked back. He said sacrifice can build someone up, but it can also be a weight that crushes you. He said sometimes the people you lift become the same people who step on you. His words hit my heart with painful truth. I wondered if Emma would ever understand what I did for her. I wondered if she would ever care. The next morning, I checked my phone and found a message from her. She said she needed more money for another school trip. She said it was important for her social image. She said it would be embarrassing if she did not go. She did not ask how I was doing. She did not ask if I could afford it. She treated me like a bank, not a brother. I stared at the message with a heavy heart. My hands shook. My eyes burned. I felt like, and now she spoke to me like I was nothing. I typed a reply slowly. I asked her if she understood how hard I was working. I asked her if she knew how much I was sacrificing. I told her I could not keep sending money because I was falling behind on my own bills. I told her I needed a break. I needed air. I needed her to understand I was still human. She responded in seconds. Not with empathy. Not with kindness. But with anger. She said I was ruining her chances of fitting in. She said I was being selfish. She said I acted like a victim. She said I needed to grow up and stop whining. Her words cut deeper than anything I had ever felt. I sat there frozen, my heart pounding, my hands trembling. The person I loved and protected had forgotten the weight I carried, the love I gave, the dreams I paused, the life I pushed aside. I went to work that day feeling empty. Everything looked the same, but nothing felt the same. The shelves, the aisles, the gas pumps. It all felt heavier than before. Customers came and went while I stood there like a shadow. I rang up their purchases and forced a tired smile. But inside my heart was cracking. Later at the warehouse, my supervisor noticed I was struggling. He asked if I needed to take a day off. I shook my head because I could not afford to lose a single hour. Every dollar mattered. Every shift mattered. Every sacrifice mattered. Even if Emma acted like it did not. During my break, I leaned against a stack of boxes. I closed my eyes. I tried to steady my breathing. But my thoughts kept spinning. I wondered if I had made a mistake. I wondered if I had given too much. I wondered if I had lost. I tried to hide it, but she knew. Moms always know. I told her about Emma. I told her about the messages. I told her how much it hurt to feel unappreciated. My mom shook her head with sadness. She said sometimes love becomes invisible to the one receiving it. She said Emma was living in a world that made her forget her roots. She said pride changes people when they start believing they deserve more than others. Her words hit me deep. She was right. Emma had changed. She was not the same girl who cried when I promised to pay her tuition. She was not the same sister who hugged me tight before leaving for college. She had traded humility for popularity. She had traded gratitude for entitlement. She had traded her family for acceptance from strangers. A week later, I received a call from one of her classmates. He said he needed to talk to me. His voice sounded nervous. He said he overheard Emma talking about me. He said she told people I was a failure who never did anything with my life. She said I worked dead-end jobs and lived like a loser. She said she felt embarrassed to come from a family like ours. She said she could not wait to move far away and start fresh. My chest tightened. My vision blurred. I felt like the floor beneath me disappeared. All my sacrifices were being twisted into shame. All my love was being turned into something ugly. I could not believe the girl I raised, the girl I supported, the girl I believed in, was using my struggles as her joke. I sat on the floor of my room with my back against the wall. Tears slid down my face slowly, quietly, painfully. I had never felt so. I woke up with a heaviness in my chest but also a strange new clarity. I stood in front of the mirror and looked at the tired face staring back at me. Dark circles under my eyes. Skin worn from long shifts. Shoulders slumped from carrying too much for too long. I whispered to myself that I deserved better. For the first time in years, I believed it, even if only a little. I went to the gas station for my morning shift and everything felt different. The buzzing lights, the smell of coffee, the hum of cars pulling in. Nothing had changed, but I walked in with a new thought. I mattered. My life mattered. My work mattered. Even if Emma refused to see it. During the afternoon, I pulled out my phone and opened my banking app. I looked at how much money I had left. Barely anything. I scrolled through a long list of transfers. Every single 1 cent to Emma. Every dollar. Every sacrifice. Every piece of my soul packed into those payments. My hands shook. My heart pounded. I knew what I had to do, even if it hurt. Even if it broke the bond one had tried so hard to protect. After work, I drove home slowly. I sat in my car for a long time staring at the steering wheel, gathering courage, gathering breath, gathering the last pieces of myself. Then I went inside. I sat on my bed, opened my phone, and I typed a message to Emma. I told her I could no longer fund her college life. I told her I could no longer work myself to the point of collapse. I told her I needed to take care of myself and our parents. I told her I needed to step back. I told her I hoped she understood, even though I knew she would not. She replied instantly. Her words were cold and sharp. She said I was abandoned. She did not show even a little empathy. She only attacked, as if everything I did meant nothing. I placed the phone on my bed and covered my face with my hands. I cried quietly, the kind of cry that makes your chest hurt and your soul fold inward. The kind of cry you never forget. The cry of being betrayed by someone you would have given the world to. Hours later, my mom knocked on my door. She said she heard me crying. I tried to deny it, but she walked in and hugged me. I broke down again in her arms. I told her everything. Every word Emma said. Every insult. Every ungrateful demand. Every sacrifice she threw away. My mom held me like she did when I was small. She whispered that I had done more than enough. She whispered that love is not love when only one side carries all the weight. She whispered that I was strong. She whispered that she was proud of me. Those words soothed something inside me. Something bruised. Something forgotten. The next day I felt lighter. Still heartbroken. Still wounded. But lighter. For once I put myself first. I went to work and talked to my supervisor. I told him I needed fewer hours at the warehouse. I told him I needed to focus on my life. He nodded and said he was proud I was taking care of myself. I felt a tiny spark of hope inside me. Like maybe I could build a future that was mine. Not borrowed. Not sacrificed. Not ignored. Weeks passed with silence from Emma. Then one afternoon my phone buzzed. It was a message from her. Not to apologize. Not to check on me. But to tell me she was coming home for spring break. My stomach dropped. Anxiety tightened. That silence hurt more than every insult she ever said. I stood there frozen. Feeling replaceable. Feeling forgotten. But this time, something inside me refused to break. Emma dropped her bags in her old room like it was a hotel she did not want to stay in. She walked past me again without looking at me. I felt the weight of her silence pressing against my chest. But this time I did not bend. This time I did not shrink. This time I stood still. My mom called her into the kitchen for dinner. Emma walked in with her chin lifted like she was too important to lower herself to our level. She sat at the table scrolling on her phone. My dad tried to ask her about school. She answered with one-word replies. Fine. Good. Whatever. But when my mom said she heard Emma was going on a lot of trips, Emma smiled proudly and said it was part of her social life. She made it sound like it was something worth bragging about. Then my mom asked how she was paying for all that. The room fell silent. Emma glanced at me with cold eyes. She said she used to rely on me. She said she thought I would always support her. She said she thought I would never say no. She said she thought I would stay in my small life so she could live her big one. Hearing those words felt like being stabbed slowly. My dad leaned forward. He asked her if she realized how hard I worked. He asked her if she knew what I sacrificed. He asked her if she understood the pain she caused. Emma rolled her eyes. She said she did not ask me to sacrifice. She said it was my choice. She said I should not act like a hero for doing something basic. Basic. My breath caught. My chest tightened. I felt something in me finally snap. I pushed my chair back. The sound echoed through the room like a thunderclap. I looked at her and spoke with a voice I barely recognized. I told her I broke myself to give her a chance. I told her I lived in exhaustion so she could live in opportunity. I told her I skipped meals so she could eat well. I told her I spent nights on warehouse floors so she could sleep in a warm dorm. I told her I sacrificed years of my future for her present. And she repaid me with insults. She repaid me with a cold heart. She repaid me by calling me a nobody. Her expression shifted. For a moment I saw her eyes flicker. But she hid it behind an icy stare. She said she never asked me to be her savior. She said she never wanted to owe me anything. She said she refused to feel guilty for wanting more. Her words were sharp. Her tone was cold. But her face showed something else. Shame. Fear. Confusion. She just did not want to admit it. My dad stood up slowly using his cane. He told Emma that family means something. He told her that loyalty is real. He told her that love deserves respect. She rolled her eyes again and pushed her chair away from the table. She stood up and said she was going out to meet friends. She said she needed real company, not people who dragged her down. She grabbed her purse and walked toward the door. My mom called her name. She did not stop. She opened the door. She stepped outside. And for the first time in my life, I let her go without chasing her. The door closed. The house fell silent. My mom put her hand over her mouth, trying not to cry. My dad sat down slowly, looking defeated. I stood there staring at dawn I heard the front door open. I sat up. Emma stumbled in quietly. She walked to her room without saying a word. But before she closed the door, I saw her eyes. Red, tired, scared. She had been crying. Emma closed her bedroom door softly. Not like before. Not with anger, but with a quiet heaviness that carried its own story. I sat on the edge of my bed listening to the silence in the hallway. Something felt different. Something felt shaken. Something felt like it was finally cracking through her pride. Morning light crept through the window. I walked into the kitchen. My mom stood by the stove stirring eggs slowly. Her shoulders looked tired. My dad sat at the table staring into his coffee. No one spoke. We all felt the weight of the night. Emma finally walked in. Her eyes were swollen, her hair messy, her hands trembling slightly. She sat down without a word. Her silence felt louder than any insult she ever said. My mom asked if she wanted breakfast. Emma nodded faintly, not proud, not arrogant, just tired, like she was carrying the consequences of her own choices. I watched her pick at her food. She looked like someone who had been humbled by the world. Not by us, not by words, but by her own reflection, the one she avoided for too long. After breakfast, she stood up and walked outside onto the porch. I hesitated. Then I followed. The wooden boards creaked under my feet. She leaned against the railing staring at the yard like she was searching for answers in the grass. I stood a few feet away, waiting, breathing, preparing myself for whatever came next. She said she did not recognize herself anymore. She said her new life changed her in ways she never expected. She said she let the wrong people shape her identity. I stayed silent, letting her speak, letting her unravel the truth she kept buried. She told me she went out with friends last night. She told me they made fun of her family. They mocked our house, our jobs, our simple life. They laughed at things I sacrificed, things I bled for, things I worked for. She told me she felt embarrassed, not of us, but of herself, for choosing friends who cared only about appearances, for choosing a world that valued image over heart, for choosing popularity over loyalty. Her voice cracked. She said one of her friends called me a pathetic nobody, and instead of defending me, she forced a laugh. She said the guilt hit her like a punch. She said she felt sick. She said she left early because she could not take it anymore. She looked at me with tears filling her eyes. She said she realized she had become someone she hated, someone cold, someone selfish, someone ungrateful, someone who hurt the one person who had always loved her unconditionally. Her tears began to fall. She covered her face with her hands. Her shoulders shook. She cried like she had been holding everything inside for far too long. I felt my chest tighten, partly from pain, partly from relief, partly from the strange warmth of seeing the real Emma again. The Emma who was buried under pride and fear. She said she was sorry. She said she was ashamed. She said she did not deserve forgiveness. She said she did not deserve me. For a long moment I said nothing. I looked at her. She cried harder. She leaned into me. She hugged me for the first time in months. A real hug. A fragile one. A human one. I felt her shaking. I felt her remorse. I felt her heart returning home. We stood there in the morning light. Not fixed. Not perfect. But healing. Slowly. Honestly. Painfully. Beautifully. For the first time in a long time, I felt hope. Not for her future. Not for my sacrifices. But for us. For family. For the love that survived even when everything else fell apart. The days after that morning were quiet but different. Emma avoided her phone. She avoided distractions. She stayed home more. She helped my mom with chores. She offered to cook dinner. She started asking how I was doing. Really asking. Not just pretending. I noticed the change in small ways. The way she made coffee for me without being asked. The way she sat beside me on the porch when I came home from work. The way she listened to my stories without interrupting. She still had pride. She still had dreams. But something softened in her. Something that made room for gratitude. One evening we sat together on the porch. The sun was setting. The air smelled like spring. Emma told me about her classes and her friends. This time she did not brag. This time she spoke with honesty. She admitted she had been wrong. She admitted she had been cruel. She admitted she had taken my love for granted. I listened quietly. I let her speak. I let her acknowledge the pain she caused. It felt like a weight lifting from both of us. She said she realized that success is meaningless without family. She said for the moments I felt invisible, for the sacrifices that went unappreciated. I reached out. I took her hand. I told her it was okay. I told her that love endures even when it is tested. I told her that I did not want to hold grudges. I told her I wanted us to move forward. Together. She squeezed my hand. Her eyes filled with tears again. I knew it was the beginning, not the end. The beginning of rebuilding. The beginning of trust. The beginning of family. Over the next weeks, she stayed home more. She helped my mom. She asked about my day. She joined me for small walks around the neighborhood. She smiled. Not like the old Emma who ignored reality, but like the Emma who learned. Like the Emma who grew. I watched her struggle to change. I watched her apologize again and again. I watched her work to be better. I watched her fight her pride. I watched her try to be someone worthy of love. One night she came to my room. She handed me an envelope. Inside was a letter and some money. She said it was for me. She said she wanted to repay some of what I had sacrificed. I refused. I told her her love was enough. I told her her gratitude was enough. I told her the real reward was seeing her grow. She hugged me again. Longer this time. And I felt something I had not felt in years. Peace. Relief. The warmth of family restored. We sat on my bed talking until late. About life. About mistakes. About dreams. About responsibility. About what it truly means to love someone unconditionally. She admitted she had been wrong about a lot of things. She admitted she started checking in with genuine concern. She started acknowledging my efforts. She started treating me with the respect I had always deserved. The road was not easy. The wounds did not heal overnight. But every step forward mattered. Every sincere apology mattered. Every act of gratitude mattered. I realized that love is not about being recognized immediately. Love is about endurance. Love is about patience. Love is about giving even when it hurts. Love is about believing in someone even when they fail. Even when they hurt you. Even when they call you a nobody. And slowly, Emma became the sister I had dreamed she could be. Not perfect. Not flawless. But someone who understood the value of sacrifice. Someone who knew the cost of love. Someone who learned humility through mistakes. I watched her grow. I watched her change. I watched her become the person I had always believed she could be. True love is measured by patience and sacrifice. It is not measured by praise or recognition. Giving selflessly even when no one notices shows the strength of the heart. Sometimes the people we love most fail to see our struggles. Their words may hurt us deeply, but this does not make our love meaningless. Sacrifice is a choice that comes from the heart. It reflects our willingness to put others first. But giving without caring for ourselves can bring pain. Boundaries are part of love. Forgiveness is not weakness. Gratitude is not owed. Both can heal wounds when humility meets understanding. People are capable of change. Even pride and selfishness can soften over time. Hard work, heartbreak, and patience shape. Forgiveness, growth, and love are choices we make every day. These choices define the strength of our character. True love endures through mistakes and misunderstandings. It grows stronger when met with patience and honesty. It teaches humility and compassion. It reminds us that every sacrifice shapes the hearts of others. It shows that love is an action, not just a feeling. It proves that family and loyalty are priceless. It teaches that standing up for ourselves is part of love. It shows that patience can heal even the deepest wounds. It tells us that hope and forgiveness restore what was broken.